welcome to Let's Chat About You today. I am really excited because this is my 30th podcast with another lovely indie author or published author called Lorraine Buxton. Lorraine, hello, how are you?
I am fine, thank you.
You look very fresh today, I must say,
Thank you.
especially as I've heard you haven't been very well lately.
No, I've not been well, but I'm getting there now. I'm feeling a little bit better.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad to hear that. So today should be a perfect day for us listening to Lorraine and finding out about what she's been writing and why she started to write her books. Before we do, I just want to remind our listeners that at Let's Chat About You Today is my YouTube channel where the purpose of the channel is to support and promote indie authors, authors such as Lorraine and many of the other authors that are already on my channel. So please do take the time to look at and listen to some of the other authors also on the channel. But today, this is all about Lorraine Buxton. So Lorraine, let's start by you telling me a little something about what does the power of writing do for you?
I enjoy writing and I have done from being a little girl, to be honest. I used to write poetry when I was still in junior school. And I had a poem um, that was about one of the Apollo missions, to be honest. So that shows you how old I am. But yeah, I've always enjoyed writing and I've written all through my life, really.
Mhm.
Um, but I've never taken it to a point where I thought I would get a book published. And the idea of actually writing a story, the stories have always been with me. I've always had the ideas in my mind, but never thought it would come to fruition, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's just a set of circumstances, really, like a lot of people when we had time during COVID, when we were, I, I class it as being isolated
Mhm.
um, from other people and finding things that, took your mind off what was happening all over the world. And writing is always my go-to. I class it as a friend, really.
Yeah.
Once I sit down and I start writing, it's as if I'm writing a letter to either myself or a friend or someone out there, hopefully a reader that'll appreciate, what's gone into it.
I like what you just said about when you're writing, it's like you're writing a letter to a friend. So, do you sometimes, when you're writing, do you have somebody in front of you that you use as the person that you're going to be telling the story to?
No, not really. I
Okay.
don't I don't have a particular image of the person that I'm writing to or the characters in the book. They're not really based on people that I know,
Mhm.
but they do take on a life of their own. Once I
Yeah.
start, sort of, that person starts evolving, and characters tend to have little bit of magic in them and they run away with the story. So sometimes it takes me to places that I never realized I was going to go to. But there are always topics. Rather than a character, there's always topics that I want to try and cover. And especially in the Mayfield books, which are more family orientated,
Mhm.
I like to think that there's a lot of people out there that would be going through something that those characters are going through, so they can relate to that.
Yes. Yeah. So when you actually are writing, I know we're going straight into this, aren't we? But when you're actually writing, what sort of emotions come up for you?
Um, a lot of emotions. I can actually be writing and have tears rolling down my face.
Mhm.
Um, I find it very comforting in a way, because it may be because a lot of emotions that I'm feeling are actually being poured out on paper. Um, but I just take examples from everyday life, really, and
Yeah.
I think that the way that I try and pour out that emotion onto the page, hopefully that's what the reader will pick up on as well.
Mm.
Um, So yeah, there are a lot of emotions running through me when I'm writing,
Yeah.
especially poetry, because sometimes poetry comes from um, the emotions that we don't always want to deal with by talking to someone else about it. I find it much simpler to write things down that I'm feeling really deeply. So sometimes that comes through in the poetry more than maybe in a book.
Yes.
But some people have actually said when they've been reading a book of mine, especially one lady wrote and said she was in a cafe and realised that she'd got tears rolling down her face and she had to sort of put the book away, finish her coffee and go because it had affected her in that way, but in a good way.
Yeah.
She wasn't, she was probably embarrassed about crying in a public place, but the
Yeah.
emotion of the book had actually touched something that she felt. And I think that's quite a good thing
Yes.
uh,
And it
to
shows
reach a person. Yeah.
absolutely, it shows the power of your writing to be able to evoke emotion to that degree in somebody. It's a
Yeah.
pity that somebody didn't come up to her and ask her, "Are you okay?" And then she could have explained what was happening. That would be really
Yeah.
wonderful. But anyway, each of us do things in the way we do them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you started writing poetry first, and then you started to start to write novels. Is that correct? Well,
Yeah.
I know you're carrying on writing poetry all the time, but was that your first was writing poetry?
Yeah. Yeah. And the way that I got into writing the novels was because of a poem. I actually sent a poem about the COVID. It was called Miracle. And I sent it to a magazine, and it was actually published in the magazine. It was a
Mhm.
kindred spirit. And someone that I do know of who has become a friend, but she was part of the publishing group
Hmm.
uh, that actually took on the books. She got in touch with me and just said, "I love the poem that you've written. Do you have any more?" And she was putting together a book that dealt with people's emotions during COVID and how people was dealing with it. So I said, "Yeah, I've got loads of poetry." Sent her a few poems, and
Yeah.
she said, "Really, I've got enough here for you to have your own poetry book published. Would you like to go ahead with that?" And that's how I became involved in partnership publishing.
All right.
And I just sent them a lot of my poetry, and Tapestry of Life came from that. But then, because I'd got a bit more confidence that people wanted to read something that I'd written,
Hmm.
I told her that I did have an idea about a story, a book that I'd like to write, and the next thing was A Second Chance, which was the first novel that they published for me. So it just went from there, and now I've got 6 books that are available on Amazon and from Waterstones and you know places like
That's
that.
great. That's a really big achievement because how many years ago did you first start getting your
The,
book published?
yeah, it would have been probably late 21,
Okay,
early
5 years.
22. Yeah, so in 5 years I've wrote 6 books, you can say. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty good. It's almost one book a year.
Yeah, yeah. I tried to aim at 1 book a year, and I always wanted to have the books published before Christmas because
Hmm.
I always think of them as a really good Christmas gift, something that you would give to someone that you know likes reading, but also someone close to you. And I call them a hug in a book.
A
So
hug in
I
a
give
book.
a hug in a book. So it's like someone giving the other person a hug. But they do have some dark elements in them as well, and they're basically about normal everyday life where we have love, loss, friendships, relationships that either work or don't work, and some of the aspects of life that are difficult to deal with sometimes. So I try to touch on I like there to be a little bit of a twist so people don't always know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just really in the last 5, 6 years that's come about. So um,
That's really good. So I do know that you've got a trilogy, and I think the titles are all have the word Mayfield in them. Yeah. So
Right, yeah.
tell me a little bit about your trilogy. How did your trilogy work?
Um, I decided to have a community that was based in a place called Mayfield, which is a fictional place,
Hmm.
um, very similar to village life as it would have been maybe 10, 20 years ago, but they are modern. It's set in today's sort of life. Um, but I wanted the community to have that little bit of oldie worldy feel about it, where people still pull together like a small community, but also show that things expand and things change. But Mayfield is basically based. Well, the first book started as Mayfield Book Corner. So based around books, based around reading, and the character that actually ran the bookshop. And then the events that happened to her and a sister, because the sister returns after being away for quite some time.
Mhm.
And they've become estranged, so they have to build up their relationship. But also, the sister's got a secret that she's keeping from a sister. So um, that family dynamic came into it. But the actual Mayfield it's basically a high street where you've got shops and the people in those shops and cafes, and they've
Yeah.
just grown. Mayfield Book Corner was the first one, and then it progressed to a cafe that's sort of the hub of the community.
Yeah.
And the latest one that came out just at the end of last year is Mayfield Blooms and Balloons, which is a party shop, florist, and really I could go on and on through Mayfield. Just having my
Yes.
high street, yeah.
I was
But
going to ask you a question. You've written a trilogy. Are you going to write a quartet, maybe?
I did when I finished this one, I thought, that's it, that's enough of Mayfield because of the characters. But
Yeah.
to be honest, the characters are so likable and so they're evolving all the time in the book. So
Yeah.
really there could be another Mayfield book, but I
Yes.
have I've got a different sort of
Mhm.
story that I want to write
Yeah.
next. So
I'm thinking sometimes when I've read trilogies, one of the main characters is highlighted, and a story is just about that main character. And
yeah,
then develop.
yeah,
So there's always an opportunity to continue. I remember I read to my grandsons. It was a trilogy, and this is not a reflection. It's just something I just remembered about a young boy called Marcus in the time of the Romans, and written by a very well-known author. And I think when I've just glanced through yours, what I liked about yours is that you didn't reflect back to the previous book too much at the beginning of the next book.
yeah,
And this particular one had too much about the previous book, and my little boys were a bit bored at the beginning, so I had to skip the beginning and
yeah.
carry on. Yeah, but
Yeah, that's it. I did find that with the third book, with the
mm,
latest one, that I had to retell a little bit of the story so that people understood what was happening with the main character
yeah,
who owns the bookshop, and the family. But yeah, it is difficult to not keep repeating yourself and to let it grow. But I think I unless someone tells me different, I hope that I've not repeated everything
yeah,
so people
yeah. You're
get
keeping it with
bored.
interest. You
But
keep it with interest, yes.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
I have had people that have read the book that have said, I got into it so quickly because I knew the characters and I knew what they were like, and it was like revisiting family,
yeah,
people
yeah,
that you know. But
yeah.
I think because it's a new shop each time and the development of that,
Mm,
um, and the people that own the shops are very different as well.
okay,
It's
okay.
the second book about the cafe. Paula becomes the main character of that book, and it's a completely different age range, and the things that happen to her are quite different to what happened to Crystal in the
Yeah,
first book. So
okay.
I do try to change it up, but it is a,
It is
it's a,
important, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
As authors, we need to learn how to hold our reader from the very first page all the
that,
way through to the very end.
yeah, yeah,
And for me as a newbie author, I'm really having to learn so much of the craft very quickly. And there is so much to learn about writing, isn't there? So
yeah, there is, yeah. And I must admit, when I first started writing a book, I've got the idea in my mind and I know what the story is that I want to tell. But like you say, you've got to grip the reader
yeah,
and keep them interested so that they want to turn the page and they want to find out
yeah,
more.
yeah,
That it is quite difficult,
yeah.
but
It certainly is.
hopefully I've done that because people are still wanting to read them.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
the truth, isn't it? Really, absolutely.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just tell me, Lorraine, are you a very disciplined person when you come to do your writing? Do you set yourself times or do you just do it randomly whenever you feel the mood comes on?
When I first started, I wanted to be disciplined, and I wanted so bad. I'm going to get up and I'm going to write for so many hours, and then and
Yeah,
I can't do that because it has to come from um, it comes from inside you, and you don't always feel like you can put pen to paper or type something. I think I was more organized in the beginning, but as I've got more used to writing, um, I try and find time where it's quiet and I'm on my own, and um, I just I just need to have the feeling of the person that I'm writing about, that can come across sort of naturally
yeah,
rather than
yeah.
being forced. So I'm not as organised as I'd like to be, but I do tend to write. The feeling will just grab me, and I'll think, oh, I'll
Yeah,
just write that down,
yeah.
But
And so, Lorraine, when you're not writing, what else do you do?
um, not very much, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I've um, I've got a disability really. I suffer with fibromyalgia and I've got arthritis quite bad. I used to love walking, and me and my husband used to go bird watching. We love nature. We love being out in nature. And for a lot of the year, we live in a caravan that's near, well, it overlooks a lake. So we've got the surroundings where we can just get out and, enjoy being out in nature. But now I have to use a mobility scooter. I can't walk very far. But I still enjoy it. I still like being outside
Yeah,
and that sort of thing. Um, I like doing crafts, anything that's, well, even getting a colouring book out and crayons and
yeah,
pencils. I
sure.
like that as well.
That's very
Um,
meditative, yes.
yeah, and reading. I read a lot.
Mm.
But um, I used to be, well, I think I used to be very active. We've got grandchildren that we used to take out all the
Mm.
time, and I owned my own business, and my husband owns his own business.
Hey.
So we've always been quite active and
Mm.
pretty busy people, but now I find that I have to fill some of the time with things I like to do. But I quite like just sitting and
Yeah,
reading and
yeah.
doing games, puzzles, things like that.
Mm.
So life's getting a lot more sedentary as I'm getting older.
So you just mentioned that you owned your own business. What sort of business did you own previously?
Um, well, for a long time, I did embroidery work and printing, embroidery on. A lot of it was industrial, so work where you have the
Oh,
logos.
yes,
I used
yes,
to do
yes,
that,
yeah,
where my husband would design a logo, and then I would end up embroidering it
yeah,
through a machine, not hand embroidery.
yeah.
And then I owned a little shop that was part of that, the embroidery business and printing and gifts, personalized gifts that we,
Hmm.
give out to people. Um, and I had the shop for about 12 years and I absolutely loved it. But because of my health, I had to give it up in 2018.
Mm.
And I still worked from home and did it for maybe another couple of years. But then
Yeah,
COVID came along and
yeah.
things changed, you know.
Everything changed.
So, yeah. And I do find when you speak to a lot of people, the jobs that they did or the lifestyle that they had changed so much,
Mm.
but led them on a different path. And mine was like that because I ended up with the writing.
Yeah,
So I don't think I could ever not do anything, but I
yeah.
find that the writing keeps me going. It is like having a job, but I don't do it every day like I used to with work. So
Sure, sure.
um, but yeah, it was quite interesting because there was a lot of creative um, work behind it. And I used to make lots of little plaques with sayings on, and I used to do T-shirts for children that said naughty step, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Um, so little things like that, that
Yeah,
I enjoyed doing,
yeah.
but very different to what I do now.
It's
Yeah.
all, it seems like creativity has been a part of your life for a very long time. So whether it's
Yeah,
in
yeah,
embroidery, words, it's all part of that same genre, really. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So tell me, just to go back to your Mayfield. So you have another book in another book in thought, but your poetry, I think our listeners would love to hear one of your poems. Do you have one that you'd like to read out to us?
I have got one from Tapestry of Life,
Okay.
and it's basically about nature again, of
Mhm.
being out in nature. I just need to put my glasses on, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Uh, but a lot of them involve nature and being outdoors. But it's actually called Nature, and I'll just start.
Okay.
Take
I'm
a walk
listening.
in nature. Feel a cooling breeze as you walk a wooded path out among the trees. Feel the bark around them, rough and gnarled with age. Look up at the canopy, the colours all ablaze. Listen to the whispers that flutter through the branches. Take a moment to understand that nature has the answers. Feel the worries leave you, all anxious feelings flow. Let Mother Nature guide you and tell you where to go. Feel freedom in the wonder of all that is around. Feel the air swirl, breathe it in, and feel the solid ground. Spend some time in nature, listen to its call. It's better than any medicine, and it's totally free for all.
Thank you. That is so lovely.
Thank you.
I'm I'm just very intrigued by poetry because I can't write poetry. And I do know that poetry is a very big part of of the literary world. When I was looking at awards for book awards, there's so many poetry awards out there. Um, how do you start to write poetry? You mentioned earlier that it's your when you've got feelings, it's
The
you
emotions, the
express
feelings.
yourself in poetry. But how do you begin to write it? Is there? I know that you have stanzas and you have the Japanese haiku. So how do you actually start writing poetry? Do you just put words down to start off with, or is there a rhythm that you have? Excuse me.
I think there is a rhythm to it, but I think I always sort of want to make a point. So the style of poetry that I write is different. It covers different themes and different genres. But when I started, I've always read poetry, but when you mention things, about stanzas and the haiku and things like that, they confuse me. And I think, oh, I could never write that. But when I start writing my poetry, it's something that's either touched me or I might even laugh about something and hear something that a person says, and I think, oh, I could write a poem about that. So there's always the thought there, but it's usually from some emotion that is there as well. But
Mm.
I know it sounds, I don't want it to sound big-headed or anything, but it's something that's come easy to me. I've always been able to do it, as I said, from being little. Um, and I can make silly poems up that maybe are only 5 or 6 sentences long, or, I've got poems that cover 3 or 4 pages. So um, it's just something that I find that's within me, really. I can't explain how it comes about because it's all so different, but there's definitely something there that just pours out of me with whatever emotions I'm expressing.
I think you're right about poetry. So I'm not a poet or a poetess. I'm not a poet. But when I started to write my current memoir, I was trying to express something about my mother, and I didn't want to write it as a long piece. And then suddenly, I think I was feeling very emotional at the time.
Mm.
Suddenly, I started to write this poem about her. And at the end of it, I gave it to my editor to read. She said, "Whose poem is this?" Because she knew I'm not a poet.
Yeah,
Whose poem? I said, "It's mine." She didn't say she didn't say anything after that. But maybe, yeah, maybe I should start dabbling, not dabbling, trying to write because you're right, it's the
yeah,
emotion that is the trigger, I think, for like
yeah,
to start maybe just jotting down a few sentences,
yeah, yeah,
feelings, and then read it back. Yeah. Have you ever thought of
yeah.
doing workshops for teaching people how to write poetry?
I've never thought of doing anything like that, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe that's something you
Yeah,
could extend your writing and your creativity. It's just,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I found it quite difficult to even do book launches. At the site where the caravan is, we have a restaurant and
Mm,
a bar and everything. And I did a book launch there, and people were coming up to me. But I had a friend at the side of me who can talk about anything,
yeah, yeah.
and people would come up and I'd say hello and how are you and show them, the range of books that I'd got. But it was this friend of mine that would get them talking about the books that I
Yeah.
was, sort of
Great
trying
friend.
to tell. Yeah, good friend. And I, I find it a bit daunting, actually, putting the work out there. It's different when you've sort of seen it on Amazon and people can
Yeah.
buy it, they want to buy it and read it. But actually trying to promote myself, I find that quite difficult. So the marketing side of it is not very good.
But who
Um,
does,
but
can I interrupt you? Who does your marketing for you then?
um, the publishing company do quite a bit, but a lot of it's down to me. And social media obviously helps. That's a platform that I think everybody uses.
Mhm.
Um, and I just find that it is the actual promotion of yourself that I find difficult because it's like, well, why would anybody want to read, and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, doing workshops and meeting people that want to learn how to do. I mean, I don't know whether I could explain to anyone how to do poetry because it just seems to come from me. But yeah, it would be interesting to
Mhm.
do something like that, because it's a gift that you can, give to people, really.
Yeah, yes, you can share your gift with others, and that's really important.
Yeah,
I think that's what's lovely about writing is it is a gift. It's a gift that we have within us. And if we are able to express that gift and write it as a story and then share it and other people will begin to become part of that gift, I think it's the most wonderful gift that we have in this world in which we live. Telling stories is just I just love it. Writing this other book about my mum, and I listened to her stories about her life. And when I was younger, I didn't take too much notice of it, but it all was in my head. And now
yeah,
that I'm writing the book and all her stories coming back to me, I thought, oh my goodness, I was so lucky to be part of that world of hers and
yeah,
growing up in her world. Yeah, storytelling is, I'd say, the water of life. It really
yeah.
is for me. It really
No,
is. Yeah.
and
Um,
I think
as you,
it does
sorry, Lorraine,
it
sorry.
does help us to appreciate as you say, you appreciate your mom and the life that she gave you and how that developed.
Mm.
And I think I've lived quite a boring, sedate, not very exciting life, but if we've got that little bit of imagination and can take it. I mean,
Yeah.
when you were saying about writing, I did write a poem, and it's all, I can't remember the whole poem, but it starts off where you take a word and you place it there, you place another one anywhere, and then all the words come together and actually make sense.
Yeah.
So I think it is a lovely thing to be able to give to other people,
Yeah. I
and
definitely agree. Yes.
touch them. Yeah, yeah.
So, Lorraine, thank you. I have really enjoyed this, and I hope that you have also enjoyed telling your story, telling the listener
I have. Yeah,
about your books, about yourself. I think it's really important that an author gets to become more visible, and that the more people hear your story, the more that you are able to express yourself. And maybe the next story that you write will become something that's going to really sit with the readers. So
yeah,
thank you
yeah.
so much for being a part of Let's Chat About You today.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no, it was a really pleasure. There was lots of questions I wanted to ask you, but I really wanted to focus on you today, and I wanted you to tell your story rather than me just asking lots of questions. So you've written 6 books, and you probably got another one coming out quite soon, maybe next year, sometime
Next year,
later this year.
well, at the end of this year, hopefully,
Okay,
if I
okay.
get on with it.
Do you want to give a little hint of the story before we close?
um, it the story is basically about a couple that end up being separated for whatever reason, because that's quite an important part of the book. I don't want to give too much away,
No.
but the idea of the story is about working dogs, assistance dogs, and the person that is one of the main characters actually goes on to need an assistance dog, but then he starts training these dogs. And I just want to bring in sort of a bit of when a person's got a disability and how they depend on the community and how animals can help, but also how a relationship that's broken can be rebuilt upon. Because if it's strong enough in the beginning, whatever happens, it will endure all that.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's basically what the story's about. But I've got to do a bit of research into the assistance dogs and research, some of
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
Yeah.
very different to Mayfield.
That's good. I think that's good, because then that's something, a new aspect of yourself as a writer as well. You're showing another aspect of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know that you write your stories reflect a lot of honesty about life's unpredictability and its heartbreak and its healing. I know that. I just want to leave that with the listeners, that Lorraine's stories really talk a lot about honesty and about life's unpredictability, its heartbreak and its healing. And I think when they read Mayfield, the Mayfield series, a lot of that will come into it. So I do hope that from uh, presenting you on the show, that listeners will take the opportunity to buy your books, which are available on Amazon. And you do have a website, don't you?
I don't have a website, but I
Oh,
do have
yeah.
social media platforms, Lorraine Buxton author and Rainbow Lovers. And if they read any of the poetry, they'll know why it's called Rainbow
Ah,
Lovers.
okay.
But
Fantastic.
they can reach me by that. If you have a look at any of the books, it's got an email address, and if anybody wants to know anything about me, there's the bio on Amazon as well.
Okay.
Uh, that gives people some idea of what I'm like.
That's great. And I think you're a wonderful person. Thank you
Oh, thank you.
again.
You are too.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on.
for doing it.
Thank you. And this is a goodbye for now, and watch out for the next one that's going to be coming up next week as well. I won't tell you what it's about just yet, but we do have another video coming up next week about
Let's chat.
four authors this time. And please do, when you have watched the video, please do like it, subscribe to it, and share it. That's really important. And also, what's super important when we have this YouTube channel is for you to drop your comments at the end or just below the actual in the comments box. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now. And thank you once again, Lorraine. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
Some people are already asking me when this is going to be on YouTube. So
Yes,
do you have any idea when it
yes, I
will be
do. It will
on?
be by the end of this week.
Oh,
So
right.
hopefully by the 31st of January or the 1st or 2nd of February, for
Oh,
sure.
that's lovely.
Absolutely.
Got people wanting to see whether I've made a fool of myself.
Yes,
No, not really.
that.
But
Thank
thank you for
you.
asking me. I
Oh,
appreciate
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lorraine. I
you.
can't believe they said that. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, bye,
Bye.
bye, bye.